The notification sound from Alex Chen's phone cut through the ambient noise of Binary Bean's coffee shop like a digital knife. 3 years of sleepless nights, maxed-out credit cards, and ramen dinners had led to this moment. FlowSync, the productivity app that had consumed every waking hour since graduating from UT Austin, had just hit #1 in the App Store's productivity category. Alex stared at the screen, watching the download counter climb past 50,000, then 60, then 70,000 users in real time. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The gesture-based interface that Alex had pioneered was finally getting the recognition it deserved. Users were calling it revolutionary, intuitive, a complete game-changer for how people managed their digital workflows. Tech blogs were writing features about the innovative swipe patterns that made organizing tasks feel like conducting a symphony. This was it. This was the breakthrough that would validate every sacrifice, every rejected job offer from big tech companies, every night spent debugging code until sunrise. But success in the tech world has a way of attracting the wrong kind of attention. Alex had built CodeStream Studios from nothing more than a corner desk in a cramped co-working space in East Austin. The walls were covered with whiteboard sketches, sticky notes in rainbow colors, and printed screenshots of user interface mockups that had evolved over countless iterations. Marcus Rivera, Alex's business partner and college roommate, handled the business side, while Alex focused purely on the code and design. They were the classic startup duo, bootstrapped and hungry, surviving on caffeine, and the unwavering belief that their idea would eventually change everything. The app itself was deceptively simple on the surface. FlowSync appeared to be just another productivity tool, but Alex had spent 18 months perfecting a proprietary gesture recognition system that allowed users to manipulate their task lists, calendars, and project boards through intuitive finger movements. A clockwise spiral could create a new project. A figure-8 pattern would link related tasks. A gentle push gesture could defer items without the frustration of tiny buttons and drop-down menus. It was muscle memory made digital, and early users described it as feeling like magic. The co-working space buzzed with the usual energy of ambitious 20-somethings building the next big thing. Startups occupied every corner, from a sustainable fashion marketplace to a meal planning service for busy parents. Alex had watched dozens of companies come and go from these same desks, some failing spectacularly, others getting acquired and disappearing into the corporate machinery of larger tech firms. The environment bred both inspiration and paranoia in equal measure. Marcus was handling their first real investor meeting across town, while Alex monitored user feedback and worked on the next update. The partnership had always been seamless, built on 3 years of late-night brainstorming sessions, and shared Spotify playlists that soundtracked their coding marathons. Marcus understood the vision and could translate Alex's technical passion into business language that made sense to potential investors and partners. They complemented each other perfectly, which made their current success feel both earned and sustainable. The morning routine at Binary Beans had become sacred. Alex would arrive at 7:30 sharp, order the same oat milk latte, and claim the corner table with the best Wi-Fi signal and natural light. The baristas knew the order by heart now, and the regulars had become an informal support network of fellow entrepreneurs who understood the unique blend of excitement and terror that came with building something from scratch. Emma Rodriguez, Alex's best friend since freshman year, often joined these morning sessions. As a UX designer at a local agency, she provided invaluable feedback on interface decisions and user experience challenges. Her outside perspective had been crucial during the development phase, especially when Alex got too deep into the technical weeds to see the bigger picture. Emma understood both the creative and business sides of tech, making her one of the few people who could provide honest feedback without crushing the entrepreneurial spirit that kept Alex going. The FlowSync user base was growing organically, powered by word-of-mouth recommendations and genuine enthusiasm from early adopters. Alex watched the reviews roll in, each 5-star rating feeling like a small victory. People were discovering the app, using it in ways that even Alex hadn't anticipated, and sharing their excitement on social media. The gesture interface was becoming second nature to users, creating the kind of sticky engagement that every app developer dreams of achieving. Alex was reviewing the latest batch of user analytics when the notification appeared in the corner of the laptop screen. A simple alert from Google News, the kind that usually brought updates about industry trends or competitor launches. But this headline made Alex's coffee cup freeze halfway to their lips. Technova Solutions launches SyncFlow Pro, revolutionary gesture-based productivity app takes Austin by storm. The blood drained from Alex's face as trembling fingers clicked on the article. The accompanying screenshots made the room spin. Every interface element, every color scheme, every carefully crafted interaction pattern that had taken 3 years to perfect was staring back from the screen. But it wasn't FlowSync. The logo was different, sleeker somehow. The company name in the corner read Technova Solutions instead of CodeStream Studios. Even the gesture patterns were identical, down to the clockwise spiral for project creation and the figure-8 linking system that Alex had spent countless nights perfecting. The article gushed about SyncFlow Pro's innovative approach to productivity management, calling it a breakthrough in mobile interface design. Sarah Thompson, CEO of Technova Solutions, was quoted extensively about her company's commitment to user experience innovation. She spoke about months of research and development, claiming her team had pioneered gesture-based productivity tools through extensive user testing and iterative design processes. The words felt like acid burning through Alex's chest. Technova Solutions operated out of a gleaming high-rise in downtown Austin, just 15 minutes from the humble co-working space where Alex had built everything from scratch. The company had raised $47 million in Series B funding 6 months earlier, according to the article. Their team included former Apple and Google engineers, marketing professionals with decades of consumer app experience, and a legal department that specialized in intellectual property protection. They were everything that CodeStream Studios wasn't, a fully funded machine designed to dominate whatever market they entered. Alex's hands shook while scrolling through the App Store listing for SyncFlow Pro. The reviews were already pouring in, users praising the intuitive gesture controls and seamless workflow integration. Many comments specifically mentioned how natural the interface felt, how quickly they had adapted to the unique interaction patterns. These were the same patterns that Alex had spent 18 months developing, testing with focus groups, and refining through countless iterations based on user feedback. The similarity wasn't just surface-level inspiration or coincidental parallel development. This was wholesale theft, a pixel-perfect recreation of innovations that represented years of Alex's life. Every curve in the gesture recognition algorithms, every transition animation, every micro-interaction that made FlowSync feel magical had been duplicated with surgical precision. Even the onboarding flow followed the exact same sequence that Alex had carefully crafted to introduce users to the gesture system without overwhelming them. Marcus burst through the coffee shop door 20 minutes later, his usually composed demeanor replaced by barely controlled panic. He had seen the news during his investor meeting, excusing himself to call Alex immediately. The potential investors had actually mentioned SyncFlow Pro during their pitch, asking how FlowSync planned to compete with Technova's superior funding and market positioning. Marcus had stammered through some response about first-mover advantage and user loyalty, but the damage was already done. The timing felt deliberately calculated. FlowSync had just reached peak visibility in the App Store, generating buzz in tech circles and attracting attention from industry publications. Anyone monitoring competitor activity would have noticed the surge in downloads and media coverage. Launching SyncFlow Pro at this exact moment maximized their ability to capture attention while minimizing FlowSync's window of opportunity to establish market dominance. Emma arrived within the hour, having canceled her afternoon client meetings after receiving Alex's frantic text messages. As a designer herself, she immediately recognized the scope of what had happened. This wasn't inspiration or even aggressive competition. This was intellectual property theft on a massive scale, the kind of systematic copying that destroyed small companies and enriched larger ones with better legal resources and marketing budgets. The three of them sat in stunned silence, laptops open, comparing screenshots and interface elements between the two apps. Every comparison revealed another layer of duplication. The gesture sensitivity settings were identical. The color gradients matched perfectly. Even the error messages used the same friendly tone and phrasing that Alex had spent weeks perfecting to maintain user engagement during frustrating moments. Teknova had somehow gained access to not just the final product, but to the entire design philosophy and implementation strategy that made FlowSync special. This level of replication suggested either corporate espionage or involvement from someone with intimate knowledge of CodeStream Studios' development process. The implications sent chills through Alex's entire body, knowing that their small team had been betrayed by someone they trusted. The deeper Alex dug into Teknova's corporate structure, the more disturbing the picture became. Sarah Thompson had founded the company just 8 months ago, immediately after leaving her position as vice president of product development at a major consulting firm that specialized in startup acquisitions. Her LinkedIn profile boasted connections with dozens of Austin tech entrepreneurs, including several members of the co-working space where Alex had spent the last 3 years developing FlowSync. Ryan Mitchell, Teknova's lead developer, had an equally troubling background. His GitHub contributions showed virtually no gesture-based interface work prior to joining Teknova. Yet SyncFlow Pro demonstrated a mastery of the complex algorithms that Alex had pioneered. The mathematical foundations for gesture recognition weren't something that could be reverse-engineered from a finished app. They required understanding the underlying philosophy and approach that guided every design decision. Marcus discovered that Teknova had filed 17 different patent applications in the past 6 months, each one covering specific aspects of gesture-based productivity interfaces. The applications were written with the kind of technical precision that suggested intimate familiarity with existing implementations rather than theoretical innovation. Several patents specifically covered the clockwise spiral creation method and figure-8 linking system that formed the core of FlowSync's user experience. The patent filings revealed Teknova's strategy with crystal clarity. They weren't just copying FlowSync's current features. They were systematically claiming ownership of the fundamental concepts that made gesture-based productivity apps possible. If approved, these patents would prevent Alex from developing future updates or licensing the technology to other companies. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. CodeStream Studios would be locked out of the very market they had created. Emma's investigation into Teknova's funding sources uncovered another layer of the conspiracy. The $47 million Series B round had been led by Meridian Ventures, an Austin-based investment firm known for aggressive acquisition strategies. Meridian's portfolio included 12 companies that had originally been developed by smaller startups before being absorbed through legal pressure or direct buyouts. Their standard playbook involved identifying innovative small companies, replicating their core technology through better-funded competitors, then acquiring the original creators at drastically reduced valuations. The timeline of events began forming a clear pattern. Teknova's incorporation occurred just 2 weeks after FlowSync's beta launch, when the app first gained significant user traction and media attention. Sarah Thompson had attended 3 Austin tech meetups during that period, events where Alex had presented FlowSync's development journey to audiences of local entrepreneurs and investors. The presentations included detailed demonstrations of the gesture recognition system and explanations of the technical challenges Alex had overcome. Most damaging was the discovery that Ryan Mitchell had actually applied for a developer position at CodeStream Studios 4 months earlier. Marcus had interviewed him personally, providing access to proprietary documentation and even allowing him to test early versions of FlowSync's gesture algorithms. Ryan had been rejected for the position due to cultural fit concerns, but not before gaining comprehensive understanding of the app's architecture and design principles. The job interview process had included signing a non-disclosure agreement that specifically prohibited using CodeStream Studios' proprietary information for competitive purposes. Ryan's subsequent work at Teknova represented a clear violation of that agreement, but proving the connection would require expensive litigation against a well-funded opponent with extensive legal resources. Small startups rarely survive that kind of prolonged legal battle, regardless of the merit of their claims. Alex spent hours analyzing the code structure visible through SyncFlow Pro's interface behavior, documenting every similarity and cataloging evidence of direct copying. The gesture recognition timing was identical down to millisecond precision. The haptic feedback patterns matched perfectly. Even the subtle animation curves that provided visual confirmation of successful gestures had been replicated with mathematical exactness. This level of duplication was impossible without access to FlowSync's source code or extensive reverse engineering by someone with intimate knowledge of the original implementation. The financial implications became clear as FlowSync's download numbers began plateauing, while SyncFlow Pros grew exponentially. Teknova's superior marketing budget and established distribution partnerships were driving user adoption at a rate that CodeStream Studios couldn't match. App Store algorithms favored apps with rapid growth trajectories, meaning SyncFlow Pro would soon outrank FlowSync in search results and category rankings. Industry publications had already begun treating SyncFlow Pro as the definitive gesture-based productivity app, crediting Teknova with innovations that Alex had spent years developing. The narrative was shifting in real time, with CodeStream Studios being repositioned as a copycat rather than the original innovator. History was being rewritten by the company with better public relations resources and more compelling corporate storytelling. Jennifer Walsh had been Alex's mentor since sophomore year at UT Austin, guiding countless computer science students through the transition from academic theory to real-world application. Her office in the engineering building was legendary among students for its walls covered in patents, startup success stories, and framed screenshots of apps that had begun as class projects. When Alex called her that evening, her voice carried the weight of someone who had seen this exact scenario play out dozens of times before. The meeting in Jennifer's home office revealed the harsh realities of intellectual property theft in the modern tech industry. She pulled out a thick folder containing documentation from similar cases, each one telling the story of brilliant young developers who had their innovations stolen by better-funded competitors. The patterns were depressingly consistent across companies, industries, and decades. Small innovators developed breakthrough technologies, larger companies replicated them through legal gray areas, and the original creators were left fighting uphill battles they couldn't win. Jennifer explained the fundamental asymmetry that made these thefts so devastating. CodeStream Studios had spent 3 years and their entire savings developing FlowSync's core technology, while Teknova could replicate it in months using their existing team and resources. The startup had to prove their case through expensive litigation, while the corporation simply had to delay proceedings long enough for market dynamics to eliminate the competition. Justice became a luxury that only well-funded companies could afford. The conversation revealed deeper systemic issues within Austin's tech ecosystem. Jennifer had watched the city's startup scene evolve from a collaborative community into a predatory environment where successful innovations were immediately targeted for replication. The same networking events and meetups that once fostered genuine collaboration had become hunting grounds for corporate scouts looking to identify promising technologies before they could establish market protection. She showed Alex documentation from a similar case 3 years earlier, where a local startup had developed innovative machine learning algorithms for social media analysis. Within 6 months, a Silicon Valley company had launched a competing product with identical functionality, backed by $20 million in venture funding. The original startup had spent 2 years in litigation before running out of money and dissolving. The founders now worked for various tech companies, their innovation absorbed into the corporate machine that had destroyed their dreams. The legal landscape favored defendants with deep pockets and aggressive legal strategies. Patent applications could be challenged through expensive proceedings that small companies couldn't sustain. Copyright claims required proving access to source code, something virtually impossible when the theft involved reverse engineering by experienced developers. Trade secret violations were difficult to prosecute when the stolen information had been obtained through seemingly legitimate business interactions, like job interviews or networking events. Jennifer's analysis of Teknova's patent applications revealed their sophisticated understanding of intellectual property law. Each filing was crafted to claim broad ownership over fundamental concepts while avoiding direct conflicts with existing patents. The applications used technical language that obscured their relationship to FlowSync's specific implementations, making legal challenges more difficult and expensive. Teknova's legal team had clearly studied CodeStream Studios' approach and designed their patents to provide maximum protection with minimal vulnerability. The timing of Teknova's market entry had been carefully calculated to maximize damage to FlowSync's growth trajectory. App Store algorithms prioritized recent downloads and user engagement over historical performance, meaning SyncFlow Pro could quickly surpass FlowSync in visibility and rankings. Users discovering gesture-based productivity apps for the first time would encounter Teknova's version first, creating a perception of market leadership that would be difficult to overcome regardless of who had actually innovated first. Industry media coverage was already reflecting this narrative shift. Tech blogs that had previously covered FlowSync's development journey were now writing about SyncFlow Pro as the breakthrough product that would define the gesture-based productivity category. Teknova's professional media relations team was providing journalists with compelling story angles and exclusive access that CodeStream Studios couldn't match with their limited resources and time constraints. The psychological impact on Alex was becoming evident during their conversation with Jennifer. 3 years of passionate development work had been reduced to a footnote in someone else's success story. The sleepless nights, maxed out credit cards, and sacrificed social relationships suddenly felt meaningless when the final product could be replicated and surpassed by a competitor with superior resources and fewer ethical constraints. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Emma had been methodically documenting every aspect of SyncFlow Pro's interface when she noticed something that made her call Alex at 2 a.m. Hidden in the app's metadata was a developer signature that didn't match Teknova's official documentation. The signature belonged to Ryan Mitchell, but it was time-stamped 3 weeks before his official start date at the company. This single piece of evidence proved that development had begun, while Ryan was still bound by his non-disclosure agreement with CodeStream Studios. Alex spent the next 48 hours gathering additional evidence with the methodical precision of someone whose entire future depended on building an airtight case. Screenshots from Ryan's GitHub repository showed commits to a private project called GestureFlow that predated his Teknova employment by 2 months. The commit messages referenced specific technical challenges that Alex had discussed during Ryan's job interview, using terminology and approaches that were unique to FlowSync's development process. The smoking gun emerged when Alex discovered that Ryan had downloaded CodeStream Studios' proprietary gesture recognition documentation during his interview process. The company's server logs showed multiple downloads of sensitive technical specifications from Ryan's IP address, including algorithm implementations that formed the core of FlowSync's innovation. These files had never been shared publicly and could only have been accessed through the interview portal that Marcus had provided for candidate evaluation. Jennifer Walsh made a crucial connection that transformed Alex's evidence into a viable legal strategy. Her network included David Park, a former Apple legal counsel who had started his own intellectual property practice specializing in startup protection. David's experience with high-stakes technology litigation and his understanding of both corporate legal tactics and App Store regulations made him uniquely qualified to handle Teknova's sophisticated theft operation. The initial consultation with David Park revealed that Alex's case was stronger than anyone had anticipated. The combination of documented timeline violations, technical evidence of direct copying, and clear breach of non-disclosure agreements created multiple avenues for legal action. More importantly, David's connections within Apple's legal department opened possibilities that went far beyond traditional copyright litigation. Apple had been monitoring the gesture-based interface space closely, recognizing its potential impact on future iOS development. The company's legal team was particularly interested in preventing fragmented patent ownership that could complicate their own gesture recognition initiatives. Teknova's aggressive patent filing strategy had already triggered internal discussions about intervening to protect the broader developer ecosystem from predatory intellectual property claims. David's conversation with Apple's legal department resulted in an unprecedented offer of support. The company was willing to file amicus briefs, supporting CodeStream Studios' intellectual property claims, while simultaneously challenging Teknova's patent applications through their own legal resources. Apple's involvement would level the playing field by providing access to legal expertise and financial resources that matched Teknova's corporate backing. The formal legal action began with a comprehensive filing that documented every aspect of Teknova's theft operation. The lawsuit included copyright infringement claims, trade secret violations, breach of contract allegations, and requests for emergency injunctive relief to prevent further distribution of SyncFlow Pro. Apple's simultaneous patent challenges created additional pressure by threatening the intellectual property protection that Teknova was counting on for long-term market control. Sarah Thompson's response revealed the weakness in Teknova's position. Instead of mounting a vigorous defense, the company immediately began settlement negotiations through intermediaries. Their legal team recognized that fighting both CodeStream Studios and Apple simultaneously would be prohibitively expensive and likely unsuccessful. The evidence of deliberate theft was too comprehensive to explain away through claims of independent development or coincidental innovation. The settlement terms exceeded Alex's most optimistic expectations. Teknova agreed to cease distribution of SyncFlow Pro immediately, transfer all related patent applications to CodeStream Studios, and pay substantial damages for lost revenue and development costs. The company also faced regulatory scrutiny from App Store platforms, making future copycat operations significantly more risky and expensive. 6 months later, FlowSync had reclaimed its position as the leading gesture-based productivity app, bolstered by the media attention surrounding Alex's successful fight against corporate theft. The case became a landmark example of how small innovators could protect their intellectual property when supported by the right legal strategy and industry allies. Alex's story inspired other developers facing similar challenges, while demonstrating that justice was possible even against well-funded opponents. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.